Hi, I'm keithbilous, and this is Live in the Lab.
All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going.
How did you go viral on TikTok?
You were on America's Got Talent. How much do you get paid to be on AGT?
Oh, you didn't get paid.
Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? Like, what you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real.
We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing.
I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2.
I've built an around myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if they're all they're going to do is hurt humanity?
Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
Had a little technical error there. It's the live stuff. We know how that works. What's going on, nation? You got myself, Keith Bilous, and Marouk MTS joining me here in the lab. Coming up in a few moments. I went to press the button and the camera wasn't there. I just don't know what happened. What's going on today? We're coming in on that's Thursday. Whoa, the week's going by fast. We do the live stuff so we can drop the days in the calendar. Yeah. We're always looking for content. So I'm like, hey, we can talk about the calendar. It's a true story. Yeah. So if you missed the morning show today, we talked about kindness. We had C. Marty Fit in the show today. We talked about working out. We got to know Chris Martin. And no, not the guy from Coldplay. Nope. Don't have budget for him. But instead, we got C. Marty Fit. Yeah, Christopher Martin. He added the fur. So Christopher Martin, C. Marty Fit. Join myself and Nicole here in the morning. Great conversation, a lot of fun. So I invite you to check that out if you haven't checked it out yet today. But of course, coming up today, we got a podcaster, and I don't know if she knows my opinion on podcasts. I wonder if she's she's standing in the green room over there. So if she doesn't know, I guess I'll offer it up. But I love them. Yeah, they're awesome. They're just nice and scripted and packaged up and presented all to you guys in the perfect package that they are, like real life. It's true. Yeah. But all joking aside, Marouk has an absolutely exceptional, I've checked it out, just a little bit, just a little snippet, exceptional podcast, top 10er, not like Di and I, we're top 10 in Afghanistan for two dads in a lab trying to be 2% better. No, she's got a rockin' podcast called Spicy Chai. You know, the old chai stuff? Yeah, spicy chai. And she likes to play a little bit of cricket for Team Canada. So she's going to join me here in a minute. I know nothing. Marouk, I know nothing about cricket. I'm going to be honest, not ignorant, because that would give myself probably too much credit. I'm fascinated by it. I would like to learn about it. And hopefully today you can teach me more about this awesome sport that I see. And I probably should spend some time. Listen, it's like pickleball. I had the guys in the lab in the morning, Heartland Jones and Ford Dyke, and apparently Heartland is the Tiger Woods of pickleball. Well, he was in the lab a couple weeks ago, and I really admit I did not know much about pickleball either. I don't get much out of the lab here except to go watch my Jets. True story. So I think we're going to keep the monologue short today. Got a lot going on in my skull. Got a lot going on in the business. Had a great chat with Anthony Franco yesterday. Anthony Franco might be doing some work with us coming up here in the lab. We're on our mission. We're on the mission. You're going to wake up one day, you're going to see 24 hours of us. It's true. Yeah. We're going to be all over it. We're going to be ubiquitous. We're going to get Ted Turner and CNN over on LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere. The Bapl channel coming to you soon. All right, listen, let me bring in the cricketer. Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm well, Keith. And yes, I do know how you feel about podcasts. I also did a little bit of research on you. So, likewise, I'm here for the challenge. Throw it all at me.
Oh, man. And I'm about to throw podcasters under the bus and my live episode with my podcasting friend. The camera doesn't work in the first few seconds. So that is just an awesome thing to have set up. So, hey, so where are you joining us from today? San Francisco?
Yes. That's correct. I'm from the Bay Area, Northern California.
Yeah, awesome. But you play for Team Canada for cricket.
That's correct. So I used to be in Canada till last year, actually. I moved February 2023. I was from Toronto, Canada. And I represented Canada till 2022. So I am semi-retired now, taking a break. Not sure if I'll go back. So we'll see.
Okay, so I did a little bit of homework and research, and that really excites me. That's super cool to me. I want to hear about that journey. But what keeps you in San Francisco today? Why'd you move there?
Honestly, work, weather, some awesome people, and more opportunities to play cricket all year round. Why not? Why not move to California?
And you have an exceptional podcast, the Spicy Chai podcast.
I appreciate you saying that.
You have so Nation, we always talk about people being lazy. I see Marty Fitz like get off your couch, but I'm thinking that Marouk is really lazy. She has 9 to 5. She plays cricket. She runs exceptional podcasts, and she teaches people that are like, yeah, I want to start a podcast and I want to do something in podcasting. I don't know why, frankly, but they're all like, I want to do a podcast. And she's like, I can help. And as a result, she's built this exceptional coaching business besides the 9 to 5 and besides playing cricket, has been a podcast coach. So lazy Marouk, what keeps you so lazy?
Honestly, I mean, hard to believe, but I can be actually very lazy at times. I'm someone who's like self-diagnosed ADHD. And so at times I am, very much taking very long 4-hour naps during the day. That is a very common thing.
Just 4 hours?
I mean, could they become 6 hours and people might think I'm dead? Sure. But, it's part of it. And I think when people hear that I'm doing like all of this, there's this like assumption, right? Like, oh my God, you're just going. And I'm like, yeah, if I was doing this all because it was like, oh, I want to do something, I want to check mark stuff, sure.
Yes.
But it kind of like how you want your channel to be a 24-hour channel, right? Yeah. You love it. This is not work for you, really, right? It's just part of who you are. I can tell it. I can tell what the way you show up. You enjoy it. Same thing for me. It's like, I'm not really working when I'm podcasting. I'm not really working when I'm coaching. Honestly, I don't even feel like I'm working when I'm doing my 9 to 5 because I really like it. It's just, there are different parts of my life. I get bored really easily. Like, I'm one of those like people who gave like TikTok all their money because I'm just like, all right, scroll. So for me, it's like, okay, well, if I was only doing one thing, damn, I would be bored out of my life. I'm not sure if you're okay with swearing on your podcast.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. I just didn't want to do it before, but yeah, it's so fucking boring to only be doing one thing. I don't understand it. It is like the typical way corporate America, and when I mean corporate America, the old white men sitting up there want it to be. They don't want you to do anything else. They want you to just focus on the career. But for me, I'm like, fuck that. Like, I am not just a corporate person. I'm also a podcaster. I'm also a cricketer. I'm also a pretty decent friend. All of that shit comes in. And also I love my nephew who, it's a very like one-sided love situation there. So that's just kind of how I roll.
So I could tell that you loved life. I follow you on LinkedIn. Obviously, that's where we got connected. And I saw your content and knocked on your door. And I was like, hey, you got to be on my show because love your energy. Love the fact that you're so lazy. And you could tell, how you just tell with some people, like you have a digital energy about you. So, we have real world energy and I guess some would say I have like this digital energy that comes through the camera here. Well, so do you. So when I see you on LinkedIn or I see your content, I'm like, all right, I'm going to vibe with this chick. I'm going to vibe with this girl. We're going to have fun. And I was looking forward to today. I knew we were going to have a lot of fun conversation. So I thought to myself, I'll keep the monologue short because I think we're going to have a great conversation ourselves. So that's why
it must have been really hard, Keith.
Hard. I feel like I'm talking every single day so often now that I got so much less to say. Not.
Yeah. I don't believe one second of that, but sure, let's do it. Let's believe it for a second.
It's my platform. I can use it how I want to.
100%. You could completely block me out right now, and I'd be thinking that I'm talking, but I'm on mute. That's what I love about having your own show.
Yeah, or just like this, I can take her off stage and I can talk, and she's off the stage, and I get the full stage myself. You mean just like that?
It's perfect. That's the power. That's the power that I absolutely love. Where I'm like, oops, sorry, technical issues. Wait, what happened?
Oh man, so if you're tuning in already, 12 minutes into the show, you can see it has gone completely off the rails. I don't even know where we're going to start. We got a cricketer. We got a San Francisconian. She's throwing a bunch of corporate old white guys under the bus already that run corporate America. So just a little bit. So clearly, Marouk has no opinions. You're a muted soul, sits in the corner of the building.
No. Yes,
No.
that is correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm paid for, right? To shut my mouth and do the work. So, I mean, I come in with no opinions. So, it's just staying true to where I come from, and which is Toronto, Canada, by the way. We're very neutral. We don't have any opinions. We say sorry every 5 minutes. So, and we don't need
Oh my
a country
God.
flag outside of our house in case we forget where we live. But all that to say, you mentioned where to start from, and I really want to get into this you hating podcaster. So if you're down for it, let's do it. Like,
Okay,
you
so
say
I
podcasters are scripted and all of that. Tell me more. Where does that come from, Keith?
I will tell you. All right, let's.
Yes.
Oh, nation. Oh, Uncle Keith's got the old pipes out today. He left the long shirt
Ooh.
sleeve off, so I'm rolling my sleeves up. All kidding aside, so I'm a marketer first. When I started this thing out, so we're going to talk business now. So when I started this thing out, here's the facts. Here's the truth. Here's the soundbite. So I'm giving sorry, Ryan Sullivan, my friend. I couldn't give you the honest truth. I'm going to give it to Marouk instead. You know, Ryan, solid guy.
I do know Ryan really well. I think he's pretty awesome, to be very honest.
Great show, great teacher, great coach. Love what he stands for. Shout out to Podcast Principles. Big fan of the work that he does. I'm really a huge fan of giving love back to everyone else, because I know that somewhere along our journey in life, it comes back, and it's so exceptional, like the work you guys are doing. So let's talk why Uncle Keith hates podcasts. He loves marketing. So there's a company in your backyard that had a big inspiration, I guess, on my marketing efforts. And I'll never forget, as a young man starting my business, and as Web 2.0 was coming out.
This must be like 40 years ago?
Yeah, no, probably about 70. Yeah, like maybe just before. So I could be one of those old white guys sitting in the corporate tower, but I chose to do
you never know.
That's true.
The beard, the beard covers a lot. It's like makeup for men,
That's true. So but I took a different path. So when I decided to start this podcast, somebody said to me, Keith, you got to start a podcast. Like, no, I don't want to do a podcast, because I wanted to do something different. And I stole a page, frankly, out of Mark Bianoff's book. When he launched Salesforce.com, which was software, but not software, the first thing he did was took a piece of software and stuck a strike through it and marketed it to the world as we're not software, even though they were software in the cloud. Because back, probably before you were born, because I was ancient then. So back when Salesforce was launched, it was software, and I was customer number 2. They marketed as, we don't sell you software, even though it's software, right? It was software in the cloud, but that's how they came to market and created a category of difference and stood out from everyone else. So when I came to market, and I'll just keep relaying my business plan to you. One can create a podcast, which is awesome. You're doing great work with your podcast. Ryan is, and so many people make so much exceptional podcasts. They were that platform, that technology, that experience was created out of necessity. Let's be frank with that, because we weren't streaming content back on the early iPhones and on Blackberries and so forth. So we had to be able to download we don't download 70,000 songs in our pocket anymore. No, we just stream them. So podcasts
some of us do, but most people don't.
Right. So podcasts were created out of necessity. But as 5G, 6G, 30G networks continue to perpetuate the planet, that technology, that terminology becomes somewhat perhaps confusing. And maybe it goes away. I don't know. Maybe it just becomes, well, what's a podcast? Is it the same as a radio? Is it the same as a stream? What is it? So one can create a podcast, one can create a show, or one can create a platform. So I decided I was going to create a show and a platform. So my show is live because I want to create content around live conversation. And here is my thought process too. Regardless if anybody's tuning in right now or interacting with us right now, I still had to record this experience. So when I made the decision to do this, what was going to keep me accountable, Mahrukh, and everybody who's listened to the show often knows, the only reason I went live was to make sure I showed up. Because I'm awake. I'm awake at noon every single day anyways. So like, okay, I'm going to put an appointment on my calendar at noon. I'm going to get in front of the camera, in front of the microphone, and tell the world I'll see you tomorrow. And then I'll do it again. And then what happened as a result of that, this little thing called trust starts to show up. Oh, right. The guy's showing up all the time. He's consistent. He says what he's going to do. Unlike often in my experience with podcasts, I'm dropping the show next Friday. But crickets, where's the podcast, right? Or is it recorded in somebody's garage? Why is the audio bad, right? So I
think society is not linear. I think society goes through cycles. We're going through a cycle right now where we're going through a technology shift where Western media is chucking away that they created and distributed the content, but people still want the content. People still want to wake up and consume content in the mornings, whether it's on their television, their radio, or on their socials. So I hypothesize that, I wonder if people check LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter and Instagram first thing in the morning. And if they do, if I put a live piece of content in front of them, would they come and watch me? First day, a few people did. Now, a lot of people do every single morning. I'm like, oh, it works, right? So that's the real reason. I love podcasts. It's purely a marketing thing. It's purely a way to stand out differently. It's purely a way to show love to my friends like yourself, Marouk, and friends like Ryan Sullivan, who are doing exceptional work in the podcast space. It's purely a fun marketing play. So there's my secret. I'm revealing to you live in the lab, 18 minutes into the show.
I love everything you said. And here's what really came up for me as you went through all of it. So first of all, you're a marketer. You don't even have to tell me that. I can just say it. The way you come out, the way you have that, like different cameras. I think you probably have 200 there or something, and the way you know how to 200. Yeah. Where you kind of know how to move with the sentence and all of that. You have to have some sort of training and experience. A lot of it is a little bit natural, but it comes with experience, like the practice. So kudos to you. It's very, very obvious it comes through. The second piece is you wanted a reason to show up. And from my understanding, it's like gaining trust with yourself too, before the audience can gain trust, because at the end of the day, energy is transferable. You don't really trust yourself. Nobody else will really. And sometimes you can trust yourself a little bit and that's good enough, right? So I hear everything you're saying. And the third piece was the consistency. Now, here's what I'll say to that.
Yeah.
There are certain people who are your people, who are in your world, that love that Keith shows up every day. Love it. And there are certain people in your world that you're also serving, that they're like, oh, so much content to catch up on. I don't have the time, oh my God. And then you're almost overwhelming them, not because you want to, right? It's just because we're all different humans. We're wired differently. So what I tell people all the time is that consistency doesn't mean you have to do something every day. Doesn't mean you have to do something every week. Doesn't mean it's not like a number. Consistency is what energy can you show up with that feels authentic to you, and if you do fall off, it's very human. Congratulations. I mean, right. We said that in the beginning, right? We're two about humans, and come back out. Talk about why you did drop off. Talk about what you're doing now. And so it's like, what I don't like, and again, a lot of people are like, how can you be a podcast coach and say this? But I will say it. Don't start a podcast because you think it will solve a problem for you. Oh, I'm not making money. If I start a podcast, I'll make money. No, bitch.
No.
Figure out how to make money. Podcast will just add to it. Oh, I don't have people listening to me anywhere else. If I start a podcast, people might, maybe if, maybe you're not a great writer, maybe you're a better speaker. But podcast doesn't solve your problem. It adds to the good that you're already doing. And I keep saying that, and people go like, oh my God, how can you be a podcast? Don't you want to make more money? I'm like, no, because the way I can do that is by telling the truth. The truth is podcast adds to your life. It doesn't solve your problem. So first thing first. And second, a podcast isn't for everyone. So the people who go like, everyone should start a podcast and, LinkedIn sucks, YouTube sucks, start a podcast. Bullshit. It's not for everyone. If you don't like being behind a mic, I love being behind a mic. If you tell me to write shit, I will literally record it and then take the transcript and then write it. That's literally how I write my content, because this works for me. But if you tell a writer, go record, it might be, there are people who are good at it. It might be not so natural for them. So it might make sense for them to actually stick to the writing and maybe add podcasting when it makes sense for them, not because the world's telling them, or they think they're going to make more money, or they think they're going to do this and do that. So I think that's the number one thing that I keep trying to preach, for lack of a better word, is do it for the right reasons. Do it because you actually think you're going to have fun doing it. Do it because you want to explore another platform, because you think you like and enjoy talking, not because, oh, it'll make you so much more money and it'll help you with strategic lead generation. It will help you with all of that, if and only if you actually enjoy doing it. Because guess what? If you don't, you're not going to be doing it. And then, like what you just said, what happens? It's like, I'll record another one next Friday and then pause recording. Oh, this fucking sucks. It's another chore. It's another task. I don't know if I can do this next Friday. It's like, dude, then don't freaking do it. And
That's why.
Last
Yes, go
comment.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Last comment. One more. It's just if you decide to start a podcast and you realize, okay, this isn't for me, good for you. You were
Yes.
brave enough to walk away
Yeah.
from something versus people who stick to something for 5 years because they're like, oh, but I've already invested time in it, but I've already done it. I can't walk away. There's difference in like walking away when you've thought through it and you're like, this is just not working out for me in my life right now. That's different versus like, I don't think I can do this. Oh, like, so that's the difference. And that's what I try to like help people understand, like figure it out for yourself. Which one is it? But the biggest thing is podcasts won't solve your problems. So stop expecting it to.
People think, I suspect, that it's as simple as just showing up and talking behind a microphone. And for the first few times, sure, it's fun and there's some ego satisfaction, ego gratification out of it. But to your point, get into it a few weeks in, you're like, oh my goodness, this is a big commitment. And I'll never forget what Ryan Sullivan said. You have to love it. Same thing you just said. You have to love what you're talking about, or don't even get started, or have the courage to make a pivot along the way.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Again, it's okay to make a pivot. It's okay to make a pivot. Right. I think many people get in because, oh, well, Marouk is doing it. Oh, Ryan's doing it. Oh, Joe's doing it. I got to do it too. Well, you got to do it for the right reasons, because it's a commitment. It absolutely is a commitment. And I love what you said. I don't think a lot of people talk about what you just talked about, because I often write the same way you do. I transcribe. I speak to my device, and because my brain sometimes is going so nah, I just got to go. And the problem, I can't get it out of my fingers fast enough. So I just got to go. Blah, and really been working hard. I'm going to reveal a secret, my last week's secret. I'm really working hard to embrace Otter.ai into my workflow, because I've seen how helpful it's been in the last few days. And I'm like, oh, if I can make this really consistent, it's going to save me a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, I've had instances talking about how fast you think, where I'm talking to Otter and it literally goes like, please slow down. I'm like, shit, AI is telling me to slow down. Fuck, Mara, get your shit together. Right? Like, so it's the same concept where if you were to pass a book or like and be like, write a LinkedIn post, I'd be like, oh, what's a hook? And oh my God, what's the middle? How do I do a call to action? If you tell me, hey, Marouk, can you talk about like why people don't listen to podcasts? Oh yeah, here, this is what blah 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 blah. Then I have a transcription, everything cool. And then I'm like, oh, this doesn't make sense. This is stupid. This is shit. Cool. I have a LinkedIn post, and the amount of people that are like, we really like the way you write. It sounds like you're just speaking to us. I'm like, because I am. That's literally what I'm doing. I am talking to you. And the other piece, I think you talked about, like when it's so important to talk about what you like on a podcast, right? And it's not pivot. That's 100% very true. And to add to that, it's when you are speaking about something, like for example, I love cricket. Like, oh my God, it's like it has this emotional thing. Sometimes I'm watching games and I'm crying and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? How can 11 strangers on the field make me feel this strongly? But there's something about it that I love. But if you were to tell me to host a podcast about cricket, I would not know what, like, I can talk about it, but only for a certain time, because I play, I train, like, and I'm just like, now I'm kind of just, again, getting bored. I don't want to do more cricket. So a lot of times what I constantly tell people, it's okay if you thought something was what you wanted to talk about and realize, actually, this is kind of a little boring. And then add something else or completely pivot, but you can also add other pieces of it to the podcast. It's your show. If you are a speaking coach, you don't have to only talk about speaking. You can talk about how you're an actor too. You can talk about how you were a sales too. This is your show. Add different angles to it. People with the right energy will be attracted to that. And people that are not your people will not be. Well, that's also a blessing. So that's kind of the piece about pivoting. Like, you don't have to constantly always pivot. You can just add different dimensions of your life into it and still have your own show.
But some would say, excuse me, some would say, no, but you got to niche down. You got to niche down. You got to pick one topic and you got to stick on it. But you're saying, because I think you're saying the same thing I'm saying. Well, no, if somebody likes
Keith or Marouk, they're going to think, well, wait a minute. She's starting to talk about her favorite ice cream. Maybe that's kind of intriguing to me. I've gotten frustrated. And I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I've gotten frustrated over the last, I don't know. We've become so taught and so conditioned to just read this. Oh, these are your interests. This is what you're going to get for the news. This is what's going to serve you up. You get into the TikTok algorithm and then you're stuck there. The moment, heaven forbid you get served up something out of a point of view that you might question. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? And then what happens is that we just all want to go get into our same echo chamber and I'll just preach the same things. Sometimes I go into LinkedIn and I'm like, oh my God, everything is the same. I would love to have a conversation with somebody that says, no, you know what, Keith, the screen right now looks a little bit blue to me. I'm like, oh, really? I'd like to hear your point of view on that. I want to talk about that. Like, I'd like to understand how you're seeing it as blue because I'm seeing it as green. We don't have to agree, but I really want to hear what you have to say on that. So many people are like, oh, it's green. It's green. It's green. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think so. What I heard there was like this niche down debate, right? Or what you also hear is ideal client avatar, your unique customer, or whatever. And to that, I say, and then I used to be one of those people who would talk about, oh yeah, niche down. So I will very openly accept that was me until I knew better. Well, guess what? People change. Then thank God they do. So but now my stance there is like your niche isn't a demographic. Your niche isn't like a color. Your niche isn't an age. Your niche is your energy. I truly believe that. Like that's your energy. Like for example, my energy might be attracting a 72-year-old woman sitting in Southern Alabama because she likes it. My energy might also be attracting a 13-year-old Australian. Like it's the energy that you attract. And the only way you can do that is if you continuously show up and not worry about what people will think of you. And I will add a caveat to that. Another thing that I've become more and more aware of, which I wasn't earlier, taking full ownership over that, is being able to show up as yourself is also a privilege. I am very privileged that I can show up with myself without fearing death, without fearing like someone's going to come kill me or I am in danger. So this is a stance of privilege. And I understand that not everyone has that. Not everyone has the financial means. Not everyone has the like demographic country means. Like I very, very privileged to be in Canada and the US. If you're stuck in Gaza right now, you're not going to fucking show up like the way you want to. So, understanding, I think that's also a piece that's not talked about enough. Oh, just show up, just be consistent, recognize your privilege. And I like, that's what I'm trying to do more and more of. I understand my privilege and I know that I can show up, and that allows my energy to be transferable, and that allows people to be attracted to the energy. Or actually some people just hate me. I've gotten enough hate comments too, like you're full of shit and you try to be so confident, and to that I say thank you. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes I am full of shit, and sometimes I am overconfident. And guess what? That is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The other thing I think you mentioned is kind of taking a different approach on what's different. When people in general talk about social media, podcasts, I can talk about them. It's like they focus on the numbers, right? And it's like this number, if I'm getting 400 downloads an episode, if I'm getting 3 people on my live stream, that means something about me. And it probably does. I'm not taking it away, but I'm really trying to help people understand that there's so much more happening, that the download numbers, the engagement numbers, the viewers, the impressions that don't tell you about that. So for example, every podcast episode, a person is becoming more and more clear about their voice. They're becoming more and more clear about their message. You probably like every episode, you're like, okay, this is stuff I really, really like. This stuff is really, really weird. That guest was fucking awkward. Yo, I can totally jam with her, right? Like you get that clarity. Your download numbers won't be fucking telling you that shit, but you are getting better. Every time someone who might have loved a podcast, but they grew up in a certain way where their nervous system just freezes up. Every time they record, their nervous system calms down because they're telling their nervous system that it's okay. And that might transfer in other areas of their life. When they show up in front of leadership, when they show up in front of friends, download numbers aren't telling you that shit, but it is helping you. So I think it's like, going back to the concept that podcasts won't solve your problems. But if you do really think this platform is for you, then it will help you in so many other ways that you probably did not even imagine. And it's not related to download.
Well, and you know what's really messed up about download numbers and statistics is now that I've been in this game and looking at it and playing it and working to build a business, call it streaming, podcasting, you know, you start to recognize and learn about the dirty side of it as well. Buying downloads, buying statistics, buying all those fake followers and fake numbers. And, you know, I saw a big discussion happening right now on my feed on LinkedIn about people engagement pods and buying followers. And you really have to pause and look around and going, oh yeah, okay, right. It makes you question everything you see, because how easy it is to vanity portray, like, unless I don't know if a big LinkedIn, I'll use LinkedIn. I don't know if a big LinkedIn creator has 100,000 followers or he just went and bought them, because the only way that I can question him is that when I say him or her is that when I say, I want to sponsor you, and then I want to say, I'd like to see your verified numbers. But until I can ask that question, how do I actually know if it's real? I don't.
Yeah.
So I'm the old guy here. I'm learning from you. You're the expert in the podcasting, all this. Like, am I missing something here? Or is that the dirty stuff nobody ever talks about? Because I can tell you, as my show has come out and people see the branding and the quality, and yeah, my numbers are low. We're just getting started, but they're real. They're quality. I got my subscribers. I got on my email list. I got a 50 some odd % open rate, but I don't got 75 million of them, because I didn't go buy them all. But is that the dirty side of the industry that nobody really wants to talk about? I'd like to hear your POV on that.
Absolutely. I think it's something, it's funny because I always forget about it at times. And I think, again, it's because for me, it's like, I can't even fathom that. But I also understand that for me, everyone is fucked up, right? Everyone has their issues. But my issue was not insecurity. And for some people, it is their issue, right? And it because demographic, way they were brought up, blah, blah, blah. I'm very, very trying to become more aware of that piece. So if insecurity, worthiness, validation is something that they're fighting with, it might be like the easiest thing to say, oh, I can't start with 0 followers, or people won't think that, I am an expert. And, you said I'm a podcast expert. I still don't think I'm a fucking expert. Like, I just might know a little bit more than someone who didn't start. That's about it. I don't think I'm an expert. I don't think, to be very honest, I don't like the word expert, but I'm okay showing up as that because I've gotten beaten throughout life sucking, right? Like as a cricketer, like literally every game, even if when I made like 50 runs, which is a really big thing in T20, I would be like, but how did I get out? How did I do this? And that was almost like my brain is now wired that way, that it's okay to suck because that's the only way I'm going to get better. I would try to play with men and people who are much better than me because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to suck, like really be bad. But when I play with these people who are so much better, I'm only going to get better. So that was always my mentality going. That's how I got wired, thanks to sports in my life, thanks to just being a typical brown girl who wanted to be a high achiever, get all A's, impress her parents, wanted to become a doctor, all that bullshit, right? Now, not a lot of people have that, unfortunately. And then they go for those buyers, those followers. And to that I say, like, unfortunately, that does make you question or question whoever is that high out, like, is it really their followers or not? But also, I feel really bad for them. Like, the truth is, and you probably understand this, is that if the truth eventually comes out, if you're not good, let's say, for example, let's say I'm making up this bullshit stat, I'm not top 10%. The first client I will get, they will right away know. They'd be like, fuck, Marouk is full of shit. How does she even not know this shit? Right? And if they don't figure it out, then that's on them. Like, then that's your fucking shit. How could, so it's like, for me, whenever like I am planning on working with someone, I do try to get on a call with them. Right. And I'm just like trying to and for me, a lot of times I've made up my mind that I want to hire them, but I am just checking, like, what is this person about? Do our energies match? Is this person like actually the shit that they say they are? So one thing I would say, that's one way you can kind of figure it out if that person's for you or not. And second, now there's this there's the content creation industry, right? Lots of people posting free content. Wasn't the case before. I mean, eventually the industry will become like, I think it's 11 billion right now. I think the last time I read the stat, it'll be 43 billion within like 7 years, which is crazy, right? And so more and more free content. And if you read someone's content, and if you can't pick up what they're saying and how they're saying it, that they're not what they say to be, again, that's on you. You know. Third, anyone that promises you a get rich quick scheme and you believe them, that's on you, you know, because there's no such thing. I am the first one that always comes in whenever I have a call and people are like, oh, you know what, monetization of podcasts. I'm like, look, Billy, it's not going to happen right away. You don't have a fucking personal brand. You have 200 followers on LinkedIn. You're not going to get in and get sponsors right away. However, I can guarantee you, if you like this and you're staying consistent with it, it will happen for you, you know? So it's that kind of real. And the amount of people I lose because of that, it's very high, right? But then at least the people I get are real. And that's what I want. I want to work with people who have realistic expectations and are not into this get rich quick scheme. So you decide who you get to work with, you decide who you get to follow. And I think like one more thing I'll say to this, there's so much pressure on like or there's so much talk about this accountability for content creators, right? Oh, the content creator spread false news and the content creator told this wrong and now they're spreading this viral piece of content that's not even right. Well, yes, they created that, sure, and sure, some of the shit people should be accountable for, but what about all those like lack of like a stupid fucking billion people who chose to actually like that piece of content? Where is their accountability? Why are you choosing to like and follow something and you're actually encouraging that behavior? And I feel like there's not enough accountability on the follower. There's so much accountability to, oh, let's cancel this fucking creator. How dare they say this? How dare they do that? But what about the people who chose to actually not fact check, listen to that thing and do it? Like, so I think the balance needs to shift a little bit. A creator should be able to say whatever they want. Sometimes I don't agree with them, but guess what? When I don't, I just unfollow. That's it. All right, I don't like this. Oh, this is so stupid. I don't agree. Unfollow. Or sometimes I keep them around because I'm like, oh, the world is full of assholes. This is a good reminder. The world is full of assholes. But the conversation does need to change a little bit more on more accountability on people who actually do follow, who do like, who do comment, and who do end up buying some of this dumb shit. So
How do you get your news? And where do you get your news?
I don't read news. I don't get news. So I actually learned this from Tim Ferriss when I read his book. I think it was the 4-Hour Workweek or Tools of Titans. I don't remember. But he talked about Tim Ferriss. For people who don't know, he's like this really, and if you don't know, you're probably living under a rock. But he's like this really cool dude. He calls himself the human guinea pig, and he has some awesome best-selling books. But at that time, I used to like watch him and listen to his podcast. And I remember he said, "I don't read the news. I don't listen to anything because the news will only give me what they want me to know." And so for me, this was him saying, I'm obviously paraphrasing. So, and basically I go and I talk to people. And if something is interesting enough that they mention, I'll go search it up by myself on different platforms. But I don't need to go and read the news and scroll through shit and blah, 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 blah. So for me, I was like, if Tim Ferriss, this man is at the time probably like a multimillionaire now. I don't know if he's a billionaire or not, but he's definitely on the growth side. If that person who's that busy doesn't think it's important to listen to the news, then I mean there is something to that. And that was around 7 years ago. I stopped listening to the news. I stopped watching the news, and my life has been so peaceful. And
So what is
after
news?
the big things, I know it. Yeah, go ahead.
But what is news today? Like, I'm going to make assumptions that you're on this, you're across all the social platforms, or some of them. I'm thinking we met on LinkedIn. So are you on X, or are you on Instagram, Facebook?
Yes, all of them. Yes.
So is that content considered news today? Like, what's news in 2024? Because we're different demographics, and I'm curious about this. Actually, I really am curious. Like, so what is news, and how are the different, like, what is news?
What comes up for me, like right away when you ask me that question, my thing would be, I don't consider content over different social media platforms news.
Okay.
I consider, like, for example, for me, when I think of news, I think of like the typical BBCs and
Yes.
CNNs and
Yes.
the Fox, God forbid,
Yes.
the Foxes, and like all of that. Like that's what comes up for me. And there are times when on the X and on TikTok and Twitter, they have their channel, and then they see the news. That's how I consider the news. In terms of everything else, when it comes to social media, the place that I would say that is the most news-like is Facebook, and B, the TikTok when they are like when they film it like it is a news style, right? A journalist. That's how I'm thinking of it. Typical journalist, kind of going about asking people questions or sharing things. That's what I think of news. And even then, it's like, let's say that comes up on my scroll. I don't like pay attention to it. Some of the algorithm knows that I don't like that kind of shit. But let's say it comes up to it. It's like, for me, I'm on purpose, even if it's interesting, scrolling up because I don't want that kind of stuff on my platform, on my social media platforms. I have like, there's enough shit going on in my life always. Like sometimes I'm annoyed with my boss, sometimes I'm annoyed with my friends, sometimes I'm like, shit, I need to be doing more. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to nap for all day, and so for me, I'm like, there's enough problems in my life. I will choose to give my energy to other problems, and also again recognizing that's a position of privilege, right? I mean, I can choose to ignore shit and still live. For me, and many people might disagree with this, and that's okay. You can hate me for this. For me, I'm always thinking, how can I make an impact without ruining my mental health? Because if I watch it, I consider myself a highly sensitive person. I get very, very impacted by stuff, and it sticks with me for days. So for me, I'm like, well, if I watch that, I get depressed. I'm not really helpful to anyone, really. I'm actually the opposite of helpful. So for me, I don't have to watch it, but if I get to learn about it, like, for example, I know what's happening in Gaza, I'm making sure that I'm donating money every month to the cause, So it's like, okay, and anytime I can donate more, I donate more. That is how I justify it for myself. Might be right, might be wrong, but that's just how I go about life.
So how do you talk about Gaza and what's happening in over there in the Middle East? How do you learn about that information then? Where do you go to get your content?
So I don't learn about the information. I know that there's something happening where people need help. That's all I know, that there's some real shit happening there. I don't know much more because I know I will be super impacted when I learn more. And again, it's not something some people will be happy that I'm saying this, right? And I might get into a lot of shit for saying this, but this is the truth and this is me, and so for me, like, there's also always this hidden pressure, right? I come from a Muslim background, I'm a brown person. You better care about Gaza. How are you not posting about Gaza? Like, there's this hidden pressure, right? And for me, I'm just like, it will be so inauthentic for me to talk about it and write about it and even tell you about it because I don't know much. I am protecting my mental health while doing the most I can with whatever control I have to help the situation. And I'm privileged enough to be able to do that, right? But that's kind of how I see the news. I don't watch it. I don't listen to it. And from what I understand, most people around me are kind of following that suit. I do have friends that like literally every day scroll through it. And I obviously have a dad who like watches the news 24/7. And it's like, I can sometimes go into the room and 3 days later, it's the same news, just a different reporter. And I'm like, oh my God, but he clearly thinks if he doesn't have if he misses 5 minutes, he's going to miss something. It's addictive. And for me, I think it's a waste of time. So that's how I see the world, really, with the world of news.
I appreciate how vulnerable you're being with me and sharing, who you really are. And I say that because we appear to be moving into a world where the idea, the concept, the reality of a personal brand is more important than ever. Chat GPT and text and just writing up a resume and all that, it just seems to be like so easy for somebody to create, AI generated humans and personas. Like, once somebody gets to know you, they get to know you as the human being, your point of view, your opinions, and so forth. I would love to hear your POV through the eyes of, frankly, your generation on the idea of a personal brand and what it means for careers, for humans, and for just moving through society today.
Yeah, I think great pivot, because I can talk about personal brand way more than I can talk about Gaza. So appreciate you doing that for me, Keith. And to talk about the personal brand for me, and I can't talk for everyone in my generation, but more and more people are recognizing that it's important to put yourself out there, right? And when I say out there, that could mean whatever that means for you. That could mean LinkedIn, that could mean TikTok, that could mean Instagram, that could mean a podcast. It doesn't have to be a podcast. So I think and you're absolutely right. It's just people need to know the human side, because even with posts now, how do they know if AI is writing it or is it you? And guess what? Even if they know right now that AI is writing it, AI is just going to get smarter, and eventually you won't be able to tell. So, and what's to say that we won't get like a version of AI where they're just speaking for us too, right? So the fear of Gen AI, I understand it, but the way I always think about it is it's happening regardless. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. Might as well embrace it. Might as well understand how it works, and might as well get better, upskill, and realize, okay, how can I use it versus this sucks, my life sucks, blah, 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 blah. Like, so there's one thing. Second thing about the personal brand is, for me, just because I've been putting myself out there on LinkedIn, just because I have a podcast, I've had opportunities that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for it. For example, like, I've gotten promoted faster within my workplace because I'm able to communicate so much better. I'm able to manage my emotions, because God knows the amount of times I do get people that I'm talking to on my podcast that are, like, for example, if someone comes in and all they're doing is selling their shit. And you're just like, dude, I would have given you a spot to do that. Stop selling your shit. Talk to me, but you gotta still be like, decent to be able to work with it. So those kind of skills, that being on different social media platforms, they help you in every area of life. My relationships have improved because right now I'm just appearing more confident. Like, it's just because I'm putting myself out there every day, literally putting myself out there, asking for people to say shit to me, my nervous system has calmed down a lot more. Now I can actually go and talk to a stranger and feel comfortable about it. I'm like, what's the worst? I mean, they can't be worse than that 15-year-old TikToker that doesn't even have a picture on their fucking profile telling me that I sound like a man, right? Like, so it's like one of those things. I'm like, it's helped me become more confident. So the idea was always, grow my personal brand. But because I took that kind of mentality to it, put myself out there on LinkedIn, had a podcast, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, you name it. Because of that, I am growing in my life in so many other areas that have that ripple effect. And on top of that, I have now like recruiters reaching out to me consistently. The fact that I make you, that's so cool. This would never have happened had I not been on LinkedIn. This would have, like,
You're
I could
absolutely
have
right.
had the greatest podcast, right? And that's the other piece. Like, I get to meet such cool people, and some of them have become really good friends, and
Yes.
we literally just met online and through this podcast stuff. So for everyone that's wanting to start a personal brand, or people who are thinking about it, or generations like, I just got to get on it, I will say, anytime, this is a bit of a different thing take, and you might disagree with it. Anytime you think I should, you shouldn't. Don't do it because you should do it and it's what everyone else is doing. But I will tell you, whatever that personal brand looks like for you, when you do it, it will help you. Even if your LinkedIn views are 5 views, it will help you in other ways that you are not seeing. And that's how you kind of get better and better.
It's almost as if our personal brand will one day be our persona, our digital avatar. Go with me here. So you can almost see in a number of years from now, as spatial computing, it comes around us, and anybody can debate all they want with me, but it's happening. Don't even doubt that spatial computing is not going to happen, because it will, and it's going to be the next great computing platform. And we're going to be using our eyes it's going to be it's the next great user interface is our eyes. But that persona, we're literally in many ways right now starting to craft that, aren't we? And because when I get up and I step into my digital world in the morning, whether it's LinkedIn or X or Instagram, it's my persona, my digital personal brand, and that's what I'm portraying to the world. And it's as if we're generationally recognizing that here's the analog version of me that you're seeing right now. And then I'm creating this digital persona of me, which is my personal brand. And it's almost as if the last 10, 15 years, as we've been kind of coming up with social media, we've been just building all this. But now with AI, and it's almost like this world of humans versus machines, the humans are recognizing, okay, well, before the machines take over, I need to create this human persona that's a digital persona, my personal brand, to be out there. I know it was a long way of winded of where I was going to get to, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think like anytime, I mean, I do think it's important to recognize what's coming and pivoting accordingly. I think it's very, very important for wherever you are. You can be a corporate person, you could be an athlete, you can be
Yes.
a entrepreneur. So recognizing what's happening and pivoting, it's the only way you're going to survive. So I think that's important, but also I feel that it's important when you are thinking, for example, when people say personal brand, I think there's this image that comes like, oh, this person writes on LinkedIn, or this person is like a podcaster, or this person is really great at YouTube. But personal brand can mean so many things. For example, personal brand is also when you're a really good person to work with at work. And you might not be on LinkedIn, you might not be on TikTok, but I really like you because you're pretty awesome to work with. That's a personal brand. So now when I go to a different company, I'm getting Julie with me because Julie is really easy to work with. So all to say is, yes, I know we're talking about social media here. All to say is that when you in general become a person that is pleasant to deal with, which is I think one of the most underrated skills ever, and you can be easy to work with in whatever capacity, be an athlete, be a corporate person, be an entrepreneur, be a podcaster. If you're easy to work with, if you are able to continuously work on your mind, your personal development, and have grace for the other person, that is your personal brand. And you can choose to then choose a place where you can talk about what you like, or what you are about, or your personal daily experiences, whatever that looks like for you. And yeah, that becomes your digital brand, right? And like you talked about it, but your personal brand, I think it's who you are. It's who you are with your friends. It's who you are at work. It's how I'm showing up for you. Like, it's this is right now personal brand. You're like, oh, Mark, either you're like, oh fuck, she's annoying, or fuck, she's really cool. This is building that brand. So it doesn't have to be always by putting posts on. It's always also about how you show up in the world in general.
But I think when you do contribute to social content, you said it very well, really at the start of our conversation, is that just be yourself. And the more comfortable you can get with being yourself, the more people are going to embrace you. It's really simple as that.
Be yourself if you can be, right?
And not being afraid of those that aren't going to like you.
Yes. It's okay not to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yes, that's exactly. So, we've already been an hour into this chat, and I had a shortened monologue. So that just tells you how much fun we had. Yeah. I did not get a chance to dig into cricket with you, so I'm going to have to ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will you come back in the morning, which would be the middle of the night for you because you're in San Francisco, but you are on Nicole's time zone. But I would love to have you back in the morning one day here very soon to dig into cricket, dig into your conversation, your career with Team Canada, dig into cricket, et cetera, et cetera. If you'd come back in the morning for the morning show with myself and Nicole, that would be awesome. Because I think it'd be a fun conversation. You're just going to be waking up. I'm sure you're going to be probably half asleep. You'll bring your coffee. So we do the show at it's 7 o'clock local time, so it would be like 5 a.m. your time. So we can maybe get you in at 5:30. But are you up?
Yeah, well, being an athlete most of my life, I would wake up at like 3:30 a.m. to get training in and all of that shit. So absolutely. I am totally down.
I would love that. And maybe you should even join me and C Marty Fit. So C Marty is a former D1 athlete too. He's been doing some content with us. He's down in Maryland. He's been joining the morning show. We're going to look at doing some collabs with him in the afternoon. But I appreciate you. I enjoy what you bring to the table. I want to be respectful of your time because I know you have a 9-to-5er. So I would love to welcome you to join our morning show, though. Would you do that with me?
Absolutely.
Cool. Before we say goodbye, anything you want to say before we say goodbye to the audience?
All I'll say is if there's anything you liked about what we talked about today, honestly, give this man a subscribe, a follow. It's very rare that someone is that committed to his audience. So just show him some love. That's all.
That's really kind. I appreciate that. That's very, very kind of you. I thoroughly enjoyed the chat. You guys can see on the bottom of the screen here how to find this young lady. You can find her on LinkedIn. You can find her on Instagram. You're not going to find her watching Fox or ABC or CBS, but you might find her dad watching those channels. So you can probably go talk to her dad about the news, but you're not going to find her watching the news, but you are going to find her soon. I'm hoping like next week in the morning with myself, Nicole Bernard, and maybe even see Marty Fit. I want to dig into the cricket career. I really want to bring this energy. I want to bring your energy to the morning because I think people might be, if people know that you and I are showing up in the morning with See Marty Fit, I think they might just be bringing the fire hoses out.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Marouk Imtiaz, thank you for joining me live in the lab. I'm going to put you in the green room for a quick second to say goodbye to Nation and then come back and politely walk you out.
Sounds great.
Hang tight. All right. There we go. That was a lot of fun. You know, I had a lot more things to talk about, but the conversation was exceptional. I love having great conversations with awesome humans. You know what I like to bring. I thank you all for joining in today. Wow. A few of you guys showed up today. I appreciate that. And I'm going to do something that I'm so horrible at doing here, but I've made some notes today. So before we got to go, I'm going to tell you all this. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. I want to get paid one day. I would just love to make a couple bucks. Keith in the lab. And if you like the show, head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a review. Thank you, Sam Oblitz, for leaving that review earlier today. And if you want to get our content into your inbox, because I know you do, inside.bapl.ai. That's inside.bapl. Exactly. Inside.bapl.ai. That's how you get connected with us. But enough about me. Let's shine the light back onto our guests. Go connect with Marouk. You see it on the bottom of the screen. LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter /X. Go connect with her, get her energy, and come back to the lab with us in the morning when we bring her back next week. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Mornings in the lab. See more. Oh, what if Steve Halford joining me tomorrow? You want to see tomorrow's show? It's going to be awesome, entertaining, going to create a lot of curiosity. It's going to get you fired up for the day. All right, see you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.